Good evening. The October 27th, 2021 monthly meeting at the Dickinson County School Board is now in session. For the record, I'd like to recognize that all school board members are present, as well as Tanya Baker, Board Clerk, Scott Mullins, School Board Attorney, and Mrs. Robinson, Division Superintendent. At this time, would you please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and the moment of silence?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You may be seated. Board members, we have the agenda for tonight's meeting. Are there any additions or changes to the agenda?
Mr. Chair, there are no changes to the agenda.
Do we have a motion to approve the agenda? So moved. Is there a second? Second. All those in favor, please say aye. 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 Any opposed, please say no. That brings us to public comment. Mr. Hicks, will you please read the guidelines for public comment?
A period of time for public comment will be designated on the meeting agenda during which the public may comment on issues related to public education. The Dickinson County School Board believes that the citizens of the county should be heard and that this is an acceptable format for receiving public comment. After the public comment section of the meeting is closed, the public shall not be allowed to participate in general board member discussions regarding agenda items. Public participation with the board members regarding agenda items can be disruptive, and the practice is prohibited by Robert's Rules of Order. It is the desire of the school board to treat each member of the public fairly and equally. Allowing one individual to participate while excluding others is unfair. The board may hold such public hearings as may be necessary to allow the public to more fully express their concerns, or the board may place the public comment section of any meeting at the end of the meeting to allow additional public comments. While we do not wish to restrict the free expression of opinion, we feel that certain restrictions may be necessary so that order and reasonable standards of decorum may be maintained. We ask that the following standards be adhered to. The speaker will be recognized by the chair. Each speaker will be limited to 5 minutes. Speakers will refrain from the use of vulgarity or profanity and will avoid negative or embarrassing comments directed toward specific children or students. Board members should not respond to issues presented by speakers unless clarification is necessary. Matters of concern raised under public comment will be referred to the proper official for investigation and future board consideration if necessary.
Thank you. Mrs. Martin, will you please be our timekeeper? And first on public comment is Samantha Mullins.
Good evening. I requested release from my contract with Dickinson County Schools as a mathematics teacher on October 4th, 2021, with the requested release date October 18th to satisfy a 2-week notice. Ms. Robinson has rejected my resignation, and the final decision rests with the board. I am pleading for my release. The opportunity that I have been offered, I have wanted for a very long time. Not only to provide better pay, better insurance, but it's also a shorter commute for me and my family. My daughter is currently enrolled in Dickinson County Schools and has expressed to me that she wants to go to school in Wise County as well. My husband works out of town, so I'm the only transport that she has to and from school. Mrs. Robinson's letter officially rejecting my resignation states, I find the reasons that you have given are insufficient compared to the harm that will be done to our students. Your absence would result in our students receiving instruction in Math 8 and Algebra 1, one of which is a verified credit for graduation, and both are SOL tested by a non-endorsed substitute. I have a few points that I'd like to discuss. First, other employees have been released this school year under their contracts, one of which was a mathematics teacher who taught SOL classes. Her letter of resignation, which is in the copy that you have in front of you, states that her reason for leaving was a new job opportunity. How can you justify their release and not mine? There's also a document at the back of the paper in front of you where I have given several options from a potential release. The best option, in my opinion, is highlighted in green at the top. There are other options highlighted in yellow, and those are teachers who are not endorsed in Algebra 1, but 6 through 8 mathematics or 4 through 8 education. The other teacher in 8th grade has agreed to do my Algebra 1 classes if necessary, so my replacement only needs to be endorsed in 6 through 8 mathematics or 4 through 8 education. Second, Virginia Code 221-302, Section A states that temporary teachers can teach up to 90 days unless approved by Superintendent of Public Instruction. And Section B states that they do not have to be licensed. We have 2 brilliant women going into 6 to 12 mathematics currently. They are aides and substitutes in the county, and they are both working to be teaching 6 to 12 mathematics. One of these young ladies I've had sub for me before. She is fantastic and finishes her coursework in the spring. She'll be student teaching in the fall. I will trust her completely to teach my classes. Last, there is a class at the high school currently being taught solely by Edgenuity. The teacher in that class, the teacher has not been replaced. There has been no replacement found, and Edgenuity was the solution. I feel that a precedent has been set in that regard, and that my algebra students will be successful in that field, as with my Math 8 students. If the program is suitable for our fully virtual students, why isn't it a good short-term option for our on-site students? In short, there are workable options for my replacement. I have wanted to be in a different county for several years now, and I was thrilled to get the offer. In any situation, I need to do what's best for me and my family. I ask you to think about what you would do in my situation. I hope you make the right decision. Thank you. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. And that brings us to April Collins.
Good evening, members of the board. Superintendent Robinson. I appreciate the time to address you this evening regarding an issue that has affected a lot of our students at Ridgeview High School. Last week, I provided each of you with an email that I had sent to the guidance counselor and director of instruction. Although I have not received a response from that email, I have received some information today on a proposed solution. I do appreciate Mr. Mullins and Mr. Hackney for their response for the email. In case some of you haven't had the opportunity to read it, let me start by giving you some background. My son is a sophomore. When we picked up his schedule in August, prior to the first day of school, we discovered he was in Spanish 1 in the fall, but not Spanish 2 in the spring. For a student beginning a new language, I thought this would be difficult to have a year off before moving to Spanish 2. However, schedule changes were not being done until the first day of school. On August 9th, we learned that the Spanish 1 teacher had left suddenly and the course would be virtual. Luke does not do well in virtual classes. He completed the paperwork and I signed off on it, requesting the change to any other class available in the third block. We were told that it could be a few days and he would remain in Spanish until his schedule would be revised. A week later, we were told that he would remain in Spanish 1 because all classes that would be available during third block had over 25 students and could not have another student added. Around the time of progress reports, all kids in the Ingenuity Spanish 1 class received a backlog of assignments, approximately 230 assignments, because the program was initially designed for a full year instead of a block semester. At no time during this 9 weeks did students have access to contact a teacher or receive assistance with vocabulary assignments. They were told to watch videos, do the work, and complete audio submissions, preferably at home, since the classroom created too much background noise for the submissions. Out of the 2 classes of Spanish 1 that have completed through Ingenuity, 1 student has received an A, 3 or 4 have received a C, and the remainder have an F. Some of these students are normally straight A students. That's not my son. Having an F will cause immense stress for them, as well as potential financial loss for their parents. Students may lose scholarships, good student driver discounts, and fall out of the top 10 of their class. Today, we've been given this solution. All students with a grade below 60 for the first 9 weeks will have their grade increased to a 60. All other grades will remain the same. For students that have completed 80% of the work and are logged on 80% of their time, they will receive 10 points, 1 letter grade, added to their final grade. So, as I was explained, a kid that was increased to 60 could potentially make a 100 with an average of 80, and then add the 10 points to give them a B. Okay, that may help some scholarships or good student discounts. It's probably not going to help your top 10. But what about our kids' education? How are they supposed to take Spanish 2 and understand it and do well? I'm not asking for grades to be handed to them, but I am asking that our kids have fair opportunities to learn. I do not speak Spanish and cannot help my child at all. I took 4 years of French. Didn't help me either. I think that this is true for many. I would like the board to consider to allow the students to withdraw from Spanish 1 so they can retake the class with an actual teacher next year. This would allow their GPA to not be affected. They would be able to learn and take Spanish 2 immediately following. This is not just for my child. This is for the majority of the kids that are currently in the Ingenuity program, which I think is not good at all. I appreciate your time. I do have a copy of my email if anyone would like it, and I hope you all have a good night. Thank you.
Thank you, April.
Ms. Collins, if we have a copy of it,
For public comment, we'd like to recognize Kathy Music with VPE.
Good evening, Chairman Mullins, Mrs. Robinson, members of the board. Again, my name is Kathy Music, and I work for Virginia Professional Educators. And it's that time of year. Our fall submission deadline for grants and scholarships is November 15th. So there's still plenty of time for teachers to get those in. They're very easy to write, and we're nonprofit, so all the money is returned back to the classroom. So I hope that some people in Dickinson County will take time and you simply write what your project is, what you're going to use the money for, then an itemized list. And you can look on the website. There's brochures that the teachers should have, but if you look to virginiaeducators.org, there's information there. Again, it's November 15th is the fall submission, and I hope that we have some people in Dickinson County to get some of those grants and scholarships. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. And Phyllis Mullins with the DEA.
Good evening. It's a busy time of year for the Virginia Education Association. We are getting ready to have our instructional, our IPD, Instructional Professional Development, which will be in November. We're going to concentrate on loss of learning, and then we will be having our pre-legislative meetings and meeting with legislators, hopefully in December. And then we're just continuing along with our monthly meetings and working out our budget and things, and just trying to do everything that we can. American Education Week is in November, and we will be having small gifts of appreciation that we will be giving out. So it's just a busy time of year. Other than just being in survival mode with everybody else, that's about it. Thank you.
thank you, Ms. Mullins.
Thank you. Our next agenda item is the consent agenda, which includes the approval of minutes, approval of monthly bills, discussion of the school activity funds, approval of field trips, approval of elementary school construction invoices, and the approval of the bank reconciliation documents. Any questions or discussion on the consent agenda? Do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I so move.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Our next agenda item is information for the school board. Mrs. Robinson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and good evening, board members. It seems like it's been a while since we've been together, and it's good to see everyone healthy and here with us today. Just a couple of items, important dates in November. I think Ms. Mullins has already mentioned that November the 15th through the 19th, 2021 is American Education Week. Our Thanksgiving dinner for our students will be held on November the 12th. Our cafeteria staff and Mrs. Compton is planning a Thanksgiving feast with turkey, stuffing, all of the good things that we think about and enjoy and want to share with our children. Unfortunately, this year, we will not be able to invite our parents and our families to our Thanksgiving dinner. Hopefully next year, when COVID is not around, we hope to have large crowds again. But because of all of the restrictions, our meal this year will be for our students and our staff. And next year, we hope to invite all of our parents and our community members to come. Other dates to remember is that our November school board meeting, and we'll discuss this again, will be on November the 17th, because the following week will be Thanksgiving holidays, and of course, schools will be closed for a week, and from November the 22nd through the 26th. And the only other item on this important dates is November 8th through the 12th will be School Psychology Awareness Week. Other information for the board is VSBA virtual conferences and seminars, and if you'll look through those, I know that one in particular is the VSBA Annual Convention, which is in November 17th through 19th. At this time, Dr. Lyle and I are planning to participate in that. If anyone else, that's an excellent conference for board members. If you would like to attend, please let Tanya Baker know, and she will be more than happy to set up reservations and all the things that you need for that conference. So are there any questions regarding any of this information from board members? Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Our next agenda item is update on the new elementary school. Ms. Robinson?
Okay. We'll go to good news from our schools first, if you don't mind, Mr. Mullins, and I'm going to ask Ms. Martin to come first and to talk about our enrollment for September 20th, 21.
Good evening. I believe that Ms. Baker put attendance, it's in yellow. You should have a packet with you. I did a summary on the front of it and different things that I know you folks are interested in seeing. Our attendance for the month of September was, we ended the month with 1,985 students. That is down somewhat from what we were last year. For various reasons. We've had some withdrawals, we've had new enrollments, just sort of balanced out that way. For the month, Irvington Elementary School once again had the highest attendance at 90.59, with Elementary School a close second at 90.29. Attendance is rather difficult right now, keeping up with it, with quarantines and that sort of thing. I don't have the exact number. I did it this morning and didn't write it down, I apologize. But we are about 75% of the students that when they are quarantined are doing their work, so we're able to change their attendance status. So I've been reminding the principals and the attendance clerks to reiterate that to the students, say, do your work, because we can go back and change your absences. The second page is basically, it's broken down for you, and then there's some historical information on the third page that gives you the percentages back for the last 5 years. And then the last 3 or 4 pages are basically our entries and withdrawals. And I'll be happy to try to answer any questions that you may have. If there are no questions, then I thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Our next agenda item is our update on our new elementary school, and I'm going to ask Mr. Burge to come to the front. You have the monthly packet before you. I apologize that this is not in color, but I will email it to you in color, because that's always so impressive, and I'm sure we'll see it on the screen in color. Mr. Burge, welcome, sir.
Thank you.
It's good to have you with us.
Good to be here. While he's getting it up, the construction continues to progress well. The structural steel is being installed, and then the walls on the first floor have all been poured, and they will be continuing to set steel in the next week or so over the classroom wing. It comes back this way. The work is going good. The parking lot's looking good. I think the pictures will tell more of the story. I didn't do a video this month because the cameras are not in a very good location anymore to see the progress. So we'll have to do it with pictures this time.
Okay.
All right, so you can see here, a month ago, this is the same area. This is the cafeteria and the kitchen area and the art room and the media center. You can see there on the left, there's hardly any steel. Over on the right there, you can see there's decking on the gym, decking on the classroom, decking in the kitchen and the dining room, cafeteria. So it's progressing well. Next picture. This is another shot of the classroom area there. You can see on the left there was hardly nothing up. The CMU walls weren't there. And now you see on the right the decking's already there and getting ready to get that floor ready to pour. Next. This was the classroom wing that goes east and west at the end last month. And yesterday, you can see there on the right, they poured all the walls around that area. And they will be setting steel there in the next week or so. Next. This is a picture, there's some pictures of construction going on. Here you can see they were pumping the walls. This was yesterday. Also, you can see that the drive is roughed in now and got stoned down. The parking lot's mostly stoned. And you can see the bar joists that are waiting to be set there over on the right. Next. Here's another picture of them pumping the walls yesterday. Next. Excuse me. Again, they're continuing to work on the walls, getting them poured. Next. This is on the second floor area. The big window there to the right is your gym. You can see the CMU is they were filling in the area there where the board yards are yesterday. And you can see the decking down. Next thing will be done, we'll get that poured, and then they will continue with the CMU walls and ICF walls there on the outside and get the bar joist set ready for the roof. Next. This is underneath, this is a classroom area. All we have to do there, once this is dried in, is we'll be building the walls, cross walls there, and separating this into classrooms. Next. This is the gym. Last month, none of the bar joists were set, and now the bar joists are set and the decking is in place. Next, I think that maybe, and this is a good shot of the entrance road from the school. As you can see, it's all roughed in there. Next, this is just a picture looking towards the school from the entrance road. Next. And I think that may be the last one. Any questions on the construction? We are still in budget, and they are still on schedule. And we are continuing to move forward with FFE Procurement. I think we have a meeting next week to discuss that, trying to make the final selections. The roofing materials will be here the end of November, so we can start putting a roof on, especially the area, the kitchen, the cafeteria. All of those areas, the gym, can have the roof installed. HVAC equipment has been ordered. Plumbing fixtures are in the progress. Electrical rough-in is continuing as the walls go up, as well as they are roughing in the last area in the electric room for the slab on grade, and that will be poured when they pour the next concrete. Any questions?
Mr. Burge, are we still on target to open the school in August of 2022?
Yes, we are.
Thank you.
I know there were some issues, I guess, this week, maybe the week before as well, with the existing septic system. I don't know if that was related to anything going on construction-wise, but can you speak to if that got resolved or?
Yes, there was a sewer manhole out there a couple weeks ago that got knocked off by equipment. They immediately pumped it out, got it going, but there was still some stone in they don't take but one stone, and then it builds up, and then you're stopped up.
Right.
So they worked on it some Friday, and then Monday this week, they came in here with a blaster thing that was pretty cool, and they cleaned all the gravel out, so hopefully that will not be an issue again.
Okay, appreciate that.
And that was an issue, Mr. Hackney, for approximately 2.5 hours, I would say, Tim,
Yeah.
till about 10:45. We certainly appreciate our staff, our students that had to deal with that. Luckily, we have restrooms in the gym and in the lobby. It's not enough, but we knew that as soon as we were ready to send the students home, then it would be repaired. It always happens that way, so we were lucky to do
They
that.
brought in a pumper truck, a blasting truck, probably about a $100,000 rig to come in here and clean it out, and spent most of the day on Monday. So I think hopefully they got everything out. It was pretty cool though to watch, I will tell you.
Yeah.
Anything else? All right, thank y'all.
Thank you. Board members, on Wednesday, the 29th of September, representatives from our board met with the representatives from the Board of Supervisors, Mr. Ellswick, Mr. Barton, myself, Mr. Mullins, and it was the chair and the vice chair of both boards to discuss the PPA process for the new wing of the elementary school. Mr. Mullins, you and Dr. Lyle may want to allude to that, but I felt it was a very successful meeting. It was a very positive meeting. And they were asked to go back then and discuss that with their board last night, and I'd like to ask Mr. Mullins to update us on that meeting and what the Board of Supervisors completed or accomplished with the resolution, please.
Thank you. I'm very pleased to report that last night the Board of Supervisors approved of us moving forward with the new addition, and they passed a resolution that I'd worked with the attorney on collaboratively with Skanska that would do the things that are necessary to be done under the PPA procurement. And that passed again unanimously, and I felt very good about that. It's good to be united in these projects, and just to make sure that you and the public are aware of the bigger picture. We have always been told by the school board that there was a desire to build the biggest, most adaptable schools that we could within our budget, balanced against, of course, we want to use quality materials. Whatever we build has to stand the test of time. You could always build bigger if you used lesser materials, but to build a school that would stand the test of time, that would be adaptable for future needs. And with that background, we started out, we were using exclusively Corps of Engineers money to do this new school, and that's going very well, as Tim pointed out. But we saw another pot of money become available that was not Corps of Engineers money. That was what's been referred to as the ESSER money. And in July of this year, we started a fairly involved process of applying for that money. And then was delighted that in August, late August, that was approved. And so we ended up with an additional $5.1 million to put into construction. And so as soon as that was approved, on September 1, we received a PPA proposal from the people that are building the elementary school now to build a new wing. And the new wing would be designed in a way that would sort of seamlessly fit into the new school that's being built. And the way it works under the PPA and under the procurement laws is they made a proposal, and then we, if you notice in your local paper, we've been advertising to the world, and we put it on websites where contractors can look at it, that if other people want to bid on this, that they can bid on it. And so that process ends on October the 30th. And as soon as that is over and we see what bids we have, we will work with Skanska and evaluate those bids, and we'll keep you and the public updated. But our goal is to seamlessly transfer over into building that new wing, even though it won't be completed in the same year. It will be the following school year before that's completed. But to jump into that as quickly as we can, get that done so that we'll have more flexibility for future years. What we do, how that, what the school board is going to have put in front of it to deal with the changes will be based on things that I'm not sure we have a crystal ball on, but certainly population would be one of them, your budget would be one of them, your student population, your budget. But basically, we want to create something that can adapt for the future years. And so it'll be an ongoing process, but right now it's going very, very, very well. I'll try to answer any questions if you have them. Thank you.
This week, we also met with the Corps of Engineers, who've been very aware of our process. And one of the questions that our group asked the Corps is that to make certain that the Corps understood that while the new elementary school is going to be finished, the area where the new wing is going to go on may not be as finished or may not look exactly the same way as the rest of the building, because we don't want to spend a lot of money or time building something and then have to knock it down to add the new wing. And I'm glad to report that the Corps was very supportive of that. They're very pleased, and I'm sorry that Mr. Burge left, but they are here about every other week, and they meet with Mr. Burge. They walk the site. They're very pleased with the progress, and they were very much in support of leaving an area where the new wing is, you know, not exactly looking like the rest of the building, but with the understanding that a year later, the new wing would be built, that area would be completed, and they had no problems with that. So that was a little hurdle. We were a little bit concerned because the contract says we have to finish the building, the new elementary school, but we wanted to make sure that that met their criteria. So that was good news also. So thank you. Questions or anything else regarding that? And we are going to have to visit the new site soon. I'm ready. It seems like we've had bad weather or something that way, but I would like to schedule a time for the board members to walk the site. And Tim is a great tour guide, and he can actually, it's wonderful to actually just walk through there and see the progress. Thank you, Mr. Mullins.
Our next agenda item, update on Vista. Mrs. Edwards, Mrs. Robinson.
We had something before that.
I believe we have another item prior to that one. I don't know if we want to change the order.
We do. Thank you. Unscheduled. The guidelines for unscheduled remote learning days. Did you see it?
Ms. Edwards could go right ahead if the board would choose. Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the board. I do have a couple items here to discuss with the board, dealing with the first is dealing with the inclement weather-related schedules. I think Tanya has put, it's green. There's a green copy in your information
And
there.
the last green copy.
And I think it's 2 pages, and one, it's titled Dickinson County Schools Inclement Weather-Related Schedules. One of them says reference document for DCPS employees. That one includes some times for employees to report to work, those kind of things. The second one, also Dickinson County Schools Inclement Weather-Related Schedules, and this one just tells basically the time school will start, those kind of things. That's what we'll put on our Facebook page, on our website, share with our parents. They won't need all the times that employees need to report. But that's the first document, or the first item I'd like to discuss, is the inclement weather-related schedules. We have 4 possible inclement weather-related schedules for this year, and they're very similar to what we're used to and what we've done in the past. Hopefully, they're very understandable for our parents, for our guardians, and for our staff, but I'll briefly just touch on those a little bit because there is a little bit of a change this year. The first one is Code Red, and that is, of course, for our very severe weather conditions. It's very rare that we have that, but we do have this called occasionally, and on Code Red, of course, schools are closed. No employees report to work, but we do have staff that are on call or they report as needed, and those staff members would include the superintendent, the division directors, the building administrators, maintenance and custodial staff would be called in if needed or if necessary. The second schedule change or schedule option is schools are closed. And for schools closed, of course, schools are closed for students and teachers, and that means there would also be no virtual learning day held on a school's closed called schedule. The third item is a 2-hour delay, and of course that just means our instructional day starts 2 hours later, our buses run 2 hours later, and basically our instructional day would run from 10 to 3, And we went to that last year. That was a change last year from a 3-hour delay to a 2-hour delay, and we would propose that we keep the 2-hour delay for this coming year. The fourth is the virtual learning day. And the virtual learning day basically would also be a 10 to 3 instructional day schedule, same as a 2-hour delay, but it's going to be done remotely or virtually. Of course, our 12-month folks would report to the buildings as normal. Our instructional staff, our teachers, would be notified of the work location to either teach from the building, from the school building, or to teach from home. They would be notified by 8:30 that morning. Of course, we usually try to get our schedules out by 6 or 6:30 if there's going to be a change. Our instructional staff would be notified by 8:30 that morning whether or not they need to report into the building to teach virtually that day. They'll be notified by an email from Ms. Robinson. So, as you know, last year we had some virtual learning days. We tried to do, we had a code green, we had a code yellow. It was a little bit confusing. So we're trying to make that a little bit more understandable. We did have days last year that we taught virtually from school, but we also had days last year that we taught virtually, our teachers taught from home. So in order to be able to utilize these virtual learning or remote learning days, we wanted to add that in there, that our instructional staff would be notified by 8:30 on that day, whether to report in or to teach from home. I'll talk more about the remote learning or virtual learning day in our next item here. The next item is just weather-related early release. We always know that's always an option, and that's if the weather deteriorates during the day and we have to release early. That happens to us occasionally. That's never a good situation. We try to avoid that if all possible because it's difficult with children coming home and parents maybe not being there. Sometimes it's unavoidable, but it is an option for early release days. And then the last item I want to mention on this sheet is at the bottom, full virtual students. And Mr. Deal shared that with me today. I think we have 52 students who are full virtual students. Full virtual students enrolled in Edgenuity will follow the Edgenuity school schedule at all times and will not operate under the Dickinson County Schools inclement weather-related schedules. They're already operating virtually. They already have their schedule, so they would not follow our weather-related schedule. That would be those who are full virtual, okay? Any questions on any of these items or any of these weather-related schedules that we're looking at for this year? If not, the second item that I have here to mention and discuss with the board deals with the remote learning days. And we've talked about those previously in earlier board meetings, but as we know, during the 2021 General Assembly, legislation was passed to allow up to 10 unscheduled remote learning days to apply to the 180-day or the 990-hour teaching time requirement when the school closure is due to either severe weather conditions or to other emergency situations. Since then, we have also found out that there is a possibility for additional days or an extension of those days, and at one point I think we shared with the board we had seen the number possibly up to 15 days, but beyond 10 would require an extension, that we apply for the extension and that we show that we're meeting certain requirements. So we could get additional days. I don't know if it's still at 15, I'll be honest with you. I don't know if Ms. Robinson has seen anything. We know 10 is allowed, but I guess the extension is not a guarantee, okay? So the legislation states that a school division may declare an unscheduled remote learning day whereby the school provides instruction and student services consistent with guidelines established by the Department of Education. So here are a few of the requirements that the Department of Education puts out there for school divisions as far as accountability considerations. The first, power and other required utilities necessary for the provision of instruction are available for students and staff. So, of course, you know, if we had a major power outage, we would not be able to do a remote or virtual learning day. Second, students receiving supports under an individualized education program or an IEP or a 504 plan will be able to access services. So our special education staff, of course, would be involved with our remote learning day and would be responsible for providing those services the same as our other teachers. Third, the division will provide student support services to students as appropriate. And an example here that the state shares with us is counseling services. So we would make sure that on virtual learning days or remote learning that our school counselors would be available to our students. Fourth, the division maintains school meal services for students. Now this one is a little bit more difficult. It will depend on the circumstances and on the situation, but some things that we've discussed and planned for the meal services, and as you all know, we have our food service folks are used to providing meals. I mean, that's not the issue, but the issue is the circumstances that we're out for. So in this case, we would provide the meals, but if we know ahead of time, if we know that a major storm is coming, we could possibly send additional meals home before the students leave, okay? If we miss several remote days in a row, we could possibly have drive-through pickup service that we're used to. But if we're not able to do either one of those and we have a remote learning day that comes up, we may have to provide those meals after the students come back, double up on those meals, get those home. That's not the ideal situation. They would still receive the meals, but that's probably the best options that we have, and probably along with a lot of the other school divisions as well. We would provide the meals, but it would depend on the situation of how we would be able to do that. The next item here, a requirement, all teachers and staff have been provided expectations for the provision of instruction and services to all students. And so that will happen probably, although it's started happening a little bit already early on this year, as with training with Google Classroom. We have new folks that come on board that weren't with us last year, and we asked them to go through training earlier this year. But also just to remind students, or maybe new students that are with us, how to log in, you know, where to go, those kind of things. Mr. Deal will begin working with our school principals and our teachers probably tomorrow on making sure everybody's up to date on what is expected, and for not only the staff, but for the students as well. Sixth, all students have computing devices available. And of course, we've taken care of that. Mr. Wallace and the technology staff have got, and they've worked with our schools and our administrators to get devices out to everyone. And seventh, any student that may be unable to access remote instruction and/or assignments due to no internet connection will be provided sufficient opportunity to complete instruction and/or assignments without penalty. So if anyone didn't have an internet connection, they would be allowed to make that up. And we're used to that as well, and we do have some circumstances and instances of that. Now, for Dickinson County Schools, our virtual learning day would look like a little bit like this. Our plan would be that we would have real-time live Google Meets, synchronous instruction with active engagement occurring. The virtual instructional schedule would closely follow the in-school schedule. The virtual instructional schedule would be from 10 to 3. The schedule will be posted on Google Classroom, shared with students and parents, shared on school websites, Facebook pages, and copies, especially for our younger students, probably a copy sent home. but we would want to make sure, and that's one of the things as Mr. Deal will be working with, as all of us will be working with our teachers and our schools, try to make sure we have that communication, that everybody knows what to expect. Lunch for students and staff will be scheduled from 12 to 12:45. So everyone would have a lunch from 12 to 12:45. For students unable to access remote instruction and assignments, they will be provided either packets to complete for the virtual learning day or provided sufficient opportunity to complete instruction and assignments. So either recorded versions on Google Classroom, the teachers can record their classes. When the students come back or are able to access the internet, they can go back and make that up. They'll be given time. In some cases, there'll be paper packets, but they will be allowed to make up time, or make up work that they may have missed and not been able to participate in due to no internet. So basically, our virtual learning day would include live meets from 10 to 12. Everyone would have lunch from 12 to 12:45, and then live meets from 12:45 to 3 o'clock. And it would be a schedule very similar to what they're used to at school. That's how we see it. If a student has math first, they would have math. I'm not sure the exact number of minutes or amount of time. It would have to be reduced, of course. If they have a language arts second, they would have language arts. And so that's what we have to work out with our schools and our administration. But that's our plan for this coming year. Virtual learning days are probably something here to stay. I would imagine we've discussed that and asked about that for years. We've been asked about that for years. Can we not do something? As we all know, we miss many days in the winter for snow-related days. And so we look at this as a good thing. We want it to be a good thing. If you're talking about at least 10 days or more, you're talking about a lot of instruction. And so we realize there may be some bumps in the road. There usually are as we start anything a little bit different. But our plan and our goal is to have live interaction and live meets for students and staff. And I'll try to answer any questions that you may have and see if the board is okay with these weather-related schedules or any comments. Or Ms. Robinson, you may have something to add.
We will need a motion from the board for the closure delays, but our students, just for the information, these do count, and so we are encouraging our parents and our students to log in at 10 o'clock. They will be counted present, and so as much as possible, we need all of our students to be participating during that time. We understand, again, that this may cause some issues with parents with small children, and we understand all that. We don't have all of the answers yet, but the flip side of that is that we close schools down for 10 days, and then we make them up at the end of the year. And so we're very excited to be able to have this opportunity. And so we will be sending letters home, Facebook. We will be talking with our teachers and our staff, promoting the unscheduled virtual days, and then hoping and asking parents to be active participants with their children. The Google Meets will be live, but they will be recorded. So for example, if a parent can't join at 10 that day and would like to do it on another day, they certainly can. The teacher will receive notice of that, and then the child will be changed from absent to present. Mr. Mullins, I think that's what we had talked about.
Yes.
We talked yesterday, we met with all of our administrators in a Zoom meeting. Mr. Mullins and Mr. Deal went over all of this information with them, and we asked for their input and their feedback. And so we're ready, as soon as the board approves this, then to get this out to our staff. Mr. Mullins tells me that there will be a big snow, here soon, so we're getting ready. I don't know why he says that, it makes me nervous, but regardless, that's what he tells me, so.
Mr. Mooney would agree with you.
Yeah. So we've had big snows in late October, 1st November, all of us know that. So we want to have this successful, but we just ask for patience as we work through this, and we'll get there. We'll get to the other side.
I'll move to approve the remote learning plan.
Second. All in favor? Aye.
Mr. Mullins, I would ask, do we have a copy of everything you went over there, or just partial?
Probably just the weather-related schedules,
Okay.
but I can definitely get you a copy of, I'll email you all a copy of the other.
Okay, thank you.
That I went over, yeah.
And Ms. Robinson, on this topic, was this the point in the agenda that we were planning to discuss potential options for Monday that we had in an email exchange about that?
Yes, sir, and I'm sorry, but my understanding was that you were not adding that to the agenda, so I will take the board's lead on that, and also Mr. Mullins, since the agenda has been approved, or can we discuss an altered schedule for Monday under this agenda item?
As long as you all agree to just amend your agenda, you can still do that.
I'll move to amend so we can have that discussion.
Mr. Hackney, would you like to lead that discussion?
Yes, just basically originated from, a concern that I shared with you about, and that you, I think, had already mentioned that was being discussed amongst Central Office Administration about possible staff shortages on the Monday before Election Day. I think this is maybe something that's been recurring over the last few years, and had spoken to some staff members as well that had, concerns about being able to operate normally under staff shortage situations. So just wanted to see, basically hear what the discussions were as far as administration's been concerned.
Thank you. When you sent that information to us, I sent an email to all the board members and shared with them, this was last week, and basically said that if the board wanted to move that way, we certainly, would do that. And I'm sorry that I missed that was an agenda item. The concerns that I had for last week about this was the timing. For some parents, being off, their children being off Monday and Tuesday does cause some childcare issues, and that was one of the concerns that I had with that as we spoke as an administrative staff. Another issue that has come up, and certainly, again, this is moving with the pleasure of the board, it appears that we will have our staff members will have an opportunity to take a booster shot either the 8th or the 9th of November. From the health department and Dr. Bissell, it appears that the side effects from the booster shot are similar to the second dosage of the vaccination. What we thought at that point was that if there was a number of our staff members that did take the booster shot, that the following day we would have an unscheduled virtual day so that we would not have the opportunity, or we would not be in a situation where several staff members called in sick or could not come in, and we would not be prepared. So that's kind of the overview that we talked about. That has been discussed before, having that Monday off, and my concern there was the timing. I think we talked about that. My other concern then was that I hoped that it would not then move to Friday, where staff members would be out, and it would be a longer weekend. I know that some school divisions reported that. But certainly, at this point, it's up to the board. We can certainly get that word out, but I do want the board to realize, as you read that email, that the timing of it was the concern from myself and I think some of our administrative staff.
Any discussion?
Well, like anything else, I worry about the unintended consequences. There's no doubt that I think our teachers, and students, and staff could use just a little bit of downtime. There's other school divisions that are doing that sort of thing. Maybe not anywhere. There's one school division that's closing or half a day every Wednesday, I think, fairly close to us. Just to try to, everybody kind of catch their breath, because as Ms. Bones mentioned earlier, that we're all just trying to survive. And I get it. I also have seen where, I guess I worry about the same thing. If people, we take the Monday off and then we get Friday, and some folks take advantage of that, and then that puts extra pressure on those who are there, and then they really, really need a break, And then on the flip side of that, you say, well, we don't do that because of those reasons, and then you have folks who take off Monday, and then you didn't give everybody a break, and then you still have the same issue, and then you put extra troubles on parents as well, trying to find it. So there's I don't know that there is a right answer. I don't know that you could go either way and say you're right and the other one's wrong, and you can't say that you're wrong and the other one's right. It's tough. I don't know what's best here. Whatever happens, somebody's going to be aggravated.
Well, that was kind of my intention, was to see, basically how the board felt about that. I understand definitely what Mr. Hicks is saying. There's no absolutes, as far as right and wrong goes. It seems like a good time to, it feels like, based on what we've been through the last few months, to say, hey, one Monday off before what's already a Tuesday off isn't necessarily a terrible thing for our students and staff, to kind of recharge some batteries a little bit. So, if the board wanted to move that way, I'd be willing to make that motion and see how it goes, but I don't know if anybody else had anything to say.
I'm not opposed to it, obviously, but I don't know that it's a good thing at this time. We ain't going to headway for this. That's the only objection. It's fair.
Any more discussion?
What are you thinking, David? I'll listen to my friends on this one.
If you'll, I'm sorry, Mr. Resnick, if you'll talk in your microphone there.
I was trying to whisper, but
I'm sorry.
I have no objection. I know what some of the people around us are doing, and but it's not unlike Jason. Either way you go, you got some problems there, and we missed 3 days in November already, taken out of the calendar, and in years past there was only Thursday and Friday back when we were in school. Of course, that goes back a half century, but the fact is that we got a Wednesday in there, and I know that the DEA worked hard for that back at that time, and it's been fine ever since, and maybe this is something we can look forward to. I hope after 2 more years, but 2023, I would hope that maybe there won't be a reason to have school closed on Election Day, frankly, because that's the one reason we don't have school, is it not? That they use the schools for voting.
It's true, because our schools are used as voting.
Historically, that's been the
Yes, sir. That's very
voting
true.
precincts set up in the schools where it was, where it's
That's a good point.
appropriate.
but I certainly listen to my colleagues and see what they think.
And just to be sure that we'll be off the entire Thanksgiving week. Dixon County Public Schools will be closed that entire week. So that's something to look forward. Again, however the board wants to move with that, we will certainly implement. I would have liked to have given our parents and our families more time because, sometimes it's difficult with childcare if you have to work, and we hear that all the time, especially with quarantine cases. So, but again, however the board feels that we should move. I do think we have one motion on the table first to approve the closure. So if we could possibly do that, Mr. Chair, and then the board can move to the other motion, if they so wish.
Do we have a motion on Mr. Mullins' information?
I think Mr. Hackney made that motion. Okay. And Mr. Rasnick seconded it, Rick.
Okay. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
Any other motions that the board would like to make or regarding that?
Well, I'll go ahead and move, and the board can determine how they want to go, but we consider Monday for a closure, just, at the pleasure of the majority.
So did you make the motion, Jamie?
Yes.
Okay. We have a second.
I'll second it. I think it's, they deserve it. I know it's short term. I know that there's other issues that come along with it as well, but we'll see.
All those in favor?
Shouldn't we have some more discussion maybe on that end of the table? About
Sure.
this, or not?
And let me say before I go, and I know there's some concern about if you do it once, then you're going to do it every year. My intention is hopefully we don't have another year like this next year, and we're, had a more normal, hopefully, 2022. So it's not my intent that, and like Mr. Rasnick, very good point brought up, Election Day may not be a closure day for very much longer. So, my mindset is if we close this year, that's not necessarily meaning that happens next year or any future years on that particular day.
Well, I certainly do not think it's a big enough issue to make, we've had to call school off on many occasions without giving much notice because of weather usually, but, I know how everybody's working and stressed beyond measure, and I also know how many children are working and have gotten behind, some of them more than others, and for some of them it's harder to catch up than others, and, I have to weigh that factor in as well. One day doesn't sound like much, and then for some children, it's quite a bit. So, taking 3 days off in November and adding another one, I don't know that it'd do that much damage, but I just want us to make sure that we're together on it and are thinking if.
Well, I'll go ahead and comment too. I think it's kind of been a really strange year with COVID and everything, so I don't have a problem with it.
Well, I think giving another day won't break the school system's back, but have such a negative effect on the children, and that's the thing that we probably ought to consider first, is what effect it impacts on our students. But I certainly have no opposition to having a day off.
Yeah, I agree with everything everybody said. I think,
Any more discussion? So we've got a second on the floor. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. That takes us to our next agenda item, update on Vista. Mrs. Edwards and Mrs. Robinson.
Good evening, board members. Wanted to give you a quick update on our Vista program.
Just to give you a little background information about what Vista is and for our public information as well, Vista is the Virginia School Screening Testing for Awareness Program, and it is a partnership between VDH and VDOE. The Vista program supports COVID testing in our schools. Dickinson County was one of the very first school divisions in the state to implement this program, and we're very proud of that. Our testing coordinator, Lily Thacker, our nursing coordinator, Debbie Dotson, and our school nurses, Crystal Rasnick, Tammy Yates, Tiffany Kennedy, Willie Bryant, and Lindsay Wood are doing an excellent job in our schools working with our students and our staff. And I want to stop just a moment and say to those folks how much we appreciate what they've done, because they truly have had a very difficult year, and they've done an amazing job. We strongly feel that our participation in the VISTA program is assisting us to help identify symptomatic children and staff early and helping us to manage COVID cases in a more effective manner. Currently, our division is providing testing, one type called pool testing, for asymptomatic and pre-symptomatic students and staff weekly. These tests are the PCR tests, and the results are available to our staff within 24 to 48 hours. In addition to the pool testing, we're also providing rapid COVID tests, which can be used for symptomatic students and or staff and students who have been exposed to COVID. The new quarantine guidelines from the Cumberland Health Plateau VDH, which will go into effect on November the 1st, will reduce the quarantine period for unvaccinated individuals. The new guidelines are: unvaccinated individuals, students, and staff who are exposed to COVID-19 may return to school on day 8 if they have a negative PCR or antigen test performed on or after day 8 of their exposure, and they have no symptoms at all. It is imperative for our parents and our staff to continually monitor for symptoms for the full 14-day period following exposure. These individuals should avoid gatherings, large group gatherings, and wear a mask around others for the 14-day period. School divisions are strongly encouraged to inform staff, and we plan to do that after this meeting tonight, and about the upcoming change and the need to adhere to the strict monitoring of symptoms and mask wearing for the entire 14-day period. The 7-day option is not without risk to students and staff, and may have a negative test with no symptoms on day 8 and still may have COVID. A letter will be posted on Facebook to inform our parents and guardians of the changes in the quarantine day option. If cases surge, and as you have seen in the news, the cases are going down, thankfully. If the cases surge in the Cumberland Plateau Health District, the 7-day option will be paused until a steady decline occurs again. Just some information about upcoming vaccination clinics for the public and for you all. The Pfizer Vaccination Clinic for 5 to 11-year-olds will take place in Dickinson County on November the 5th and November the 12th at each of our elementary schools and Ridgeview Middle School. More information on the vaccination clinic will be forthcoming when the vaccinations are approved. Tentative schedule for administration of booster shots for employees and staff is November the 8th or November the 9th at Ridgeview High School. If you have any questions, I'll try to answer. Mrs. Robinson, did you have anything?
Thank you, Ms. Edwards. Excellent job. Our rapid test that we have available at our schools meets the criteria of the antigen test. So students and staff may return on day 8. The rapid test may be administered at our schools by our nurses, and then if negative, they can remain in school. So we have gone from a 14-day quarantine to a 10-day quarantine, now to a 7-day quarantine beginning November 1st, and we hope it just continues to going down. Again, in meetings with the health department, the quarantine days may change or may increase depending on the surges. So I do want to, sometimes we just think it's going to be that way forever, and we hope it's less than that, but it could go up again, so.
Are there any numbers that show the time, is there some standard time or average time after so many days the symptoms are not there?
Typically, they say watch for the 14-day period. That's why they're asking the families to monitor those symptoms carefully, so they want them to monitor for the 14-day period.
So
and even worse than this.
On the 8th day, they will be tested.
On the 8th day, they will be tested, and the good thing about being in the Vista program is the rapid test, which we did call today to confirm that it was an antigen test, is we get it back in 15 minutes.
Yes.
So the parents can bring the students in, the nurses will meet them outside in the parking lot or somewhere in the lobby, probably not the lobby, but somewhere outside or a confidential area. They will test the student, and then within 15 minutes, we know the results.
Yes.
Very good.
So if there's a negative result, then the student would go on to class. The parent would stay until we get the result back, just in case there's a positive, and then the parent leaves, and we have to try to get back up with them.
Thank you.
That has, being able to administer the rapid test, the screenings that we're having weekly, that I think has really helped us to manage the numbers in a much better way.
And the good thing about the Vista program is that because we are one of the first divisions in the state, is they're starting to see suggestions from schools, and they're starting to make changes in their program. For example, initially, our pool testing, we had to test one time, and then in the positive pool, we had to do a confirmation test. So it was taking a few days for us to get the results back, and in the meantime, those students were still in school. So now they only get one test, and it is a PCR. We get the results, the health department gets it in about 48 hours. In about 24 hours. We get it back in about 48 hours. So it's much faster.
Yes, absolutely.
So they're making changes as we move through this. But I'm very thankful to have the program, because I think it is keeping our students and staff safe.
That's great. Any more questions?
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Edwards.
Our next agenda item is approval of the DCPS Child Nutritional Program Procurement Plan. Mrs. Taylor?
No, I think it's the approval of early employee payroll. Mr. Mullins.
Employee payroll.
You may be looking at a former agenda.
Maybe.
I believe that was on last month. Good evening, Chairman, members of the board. I wanted to speak with you this evening about our payroll schedule for the upcoming months. It is our normal operating procedure that we do schedule the pay dates for our employees on the last business day of each month. That would put the November payroll and December payroll dates as November 30th and December 31st. In light of the upcoming scheduled holiday closures, we are asking your permission to change those dates for employee pay dates from November 30th to Friday, November the 19th, and from December the 31st to Friday, December the 17th. If you have any questions or concerns, I'd be glad to address those with you. If not, we would just need a vote for your approval on those items.
Yeah, I move to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Our last agenda item is early school board meeting dates in November and December. Mrs. Robinson?
Thank you, sir. This is our last agenda item, and just for the board's reminders is that the November board meeting is scheduled on Wednesday, November the 17th, and the December school board meeting is scheduled on Wednesday, December the 15th. And then the following week, Christmas holidays will begin. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
This will conclude our open session and time for board comment. We'll start with Jamie.
I don't really have anything, just glad to be back this month and glad to see everyone healthy.
No, we need to vote on that.
He asked if we needed a motion for the change in the...
I'm sorry.
Mr. Razak was just discussing the change in the schedule of the board meetings, that we did not need a motion on that.
No, sir. No, sir. Thank you, Mr. Hagney. That was approved in January, sir, at our first meeting. Thank you.
On that note, I had noticed, you and Dr. Lau had mentioned the VSBA convention, which starts on November the 17th. So I don't know if there was a conflict there that, that's...
Dr. Lau, will you be leaving that day?
I probably will be doing virtual.
Okay.
As I think you are.
Yes, sir.
So I think we can attend
All
the
right.
meeting.
And for those...
And my keyword is probably.
We understand. Dr. Lau and I are attending virtually, so we will be here on the 17th probably, and that's his word. Thank you, Mr. Hicks. Oh.
Yeah, I didn't have anything else.
Well, I just like to thank everybody that's, working so hard to keep things as even as we can. Like I say, a lot of our children it's been a tough couple of years, and I know we're working hard to keep everybody and catch them up, and I expect this year the SOL test will probably count, will they not?
They are
in a way
accountable.
that's,
Yes, sir.
we need to be as productive as we can there and help those children reach the same level that they need to be recognized and move on in the school division as well. It is a difficult task we face, but I believe sincerely that if everyone pulls together as a team, I think we can be successful. I value each employee that we have and every family that we represent. In this county, we're all right much alike, whatever district we live in or community. I think we all share the love for children and want to see what's best for our children. Sometimes it's kind of hard to decide, but some people think school boards, I guess, can decide about as they choose. That's not true. We work under a layer of laws, from the federal government to the state government and to the state organizations. When you work in public schools, you have the public health department, and in matters dealing with public health, they have right much more to say about it than school boards do. And sometimes that creates a conflict among the community and among families and among school boards and the people they represent. It's difficult to explain because it seems so simple to do. I think what Ms. Evers explained there should be a welcome sigh of relief to everyone and every family. This thing is not gone, and it's not going to go away for some time apparently, and we have to deal with it, keep our folks as safe as we possibly can. And I think we've done a good job and will continue to do a good job, but it takes everybody kind of pulling the same way to make this as successful as it can be. And I do appreciate the efforts of everyone in trying to make our children be the best they can be.
I will say it. I'll just say that every other school division is going through this, but it seems like it's kind of extra with us. Staffing, whether that be from classroom teachers to bus drivers and everything else, and there's not a whole lot of people going back into, going into education as a whole. And I've heard that there are school districts out there that are offering $7,000 sign-in bonuses to students coming out and coming in and signing up, and these are, divisions that are close to us. And it's getting harder and harder for us to compete. And that put extra on our staff altogether. Students suffer from that. And we're going to go through some growing pains with this, I think, for the next little bit. And I hope that there's some solution to that we can find somewhere along the line. As I said earlier, the Monday off deal, I think we deserve it. Whoever has some unfortunate circumstances from that, I'll apologize for that now, because it's somebody, it will turn out that way from the unintended. But I think everybody's doing a good job. It's impressive with the testing part. It's really great to start seeing these numbers come down, and just hope to continue to see that, continue in that trend, hopefully.
My comment is more of a personal nature. I've registered for in person for the school convention or the state, but I need to speak to our clerk about changing that, and I understand that'll be a potential problem, but I have a personal reason that I'll discuss with her. But anyway, that's all I got to say.
Thank you.
Well, I keep going back to the attendance percentages. Even with COVID, how great our attendance percentages have been compared. I've looked at some of the schools up in Northern Virginia, and we're much better than a lot of the schools in Northern Virginia. So that tells me you got to get somebody there to get them educated first. And the teachers, the principals, the administration, the staff have done a phenomenal job in getting to do that. And I just want to thank each one of you from the bottom of my heart for that. At this time, we will now go into closed session. Pursuant to Section 2.2-3711, Paragraph A of the Code of Virginia, there will be a closed meeting for the purpose of 1, employment issues relating to discussion or consideration of specific individuals for employment as custodians, part-time aides, substitutes, FMLA request, resignation, retirements, and the division superintendent's evaluation pursuant to Virginia Code Section 2.2-3711A and 1, and 2, to consult with legal counsel regarding the investment of public funds associated with school construction and consultation regarding actual or probable litigation, along with consultation regarding specific matters requiring legal advice pursuant to Virginia Code Section 2.2-3711A, 6, 7, and 8 of the Code of Virginia. Is there a motion to go into closed session?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We're now in closed session. In a closed session.
So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Mrs. Robinson, will you please read the certification?
Yes, sir, I certainly will. Whereas the Dickinson County School Board has convened a closed meeting on this date pursuant to an affirmative recorded vote, and in accordance with the provisions of the Virginia Freedom of Information Act, and whereas Section 2.2-3712D of the Code of Virginia requires a certification by this school board that such closed meeting was conducted in conformity with Virginia law. Now therefore be it resolved that the Dickinson County School Board hereby certifies, to the best of each member's knowledge, 1, only the public business matters lawfully exempted from open meeting requirements by the Virginia law were discussed, and 2, only such public business matters as were identified in the motion by which the closed meeting was convened were heard, discussed, or considered. Board members, please certify.
I certify.
I certify.
I certify.
I certify.
I certify.
Are there any motions from closed session?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the personnel matters and recommendations as discussed with Division Superintendent in executive session.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Is there any other business to discuss? Hearing none, do I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So moved.
Do we have a second? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
The meeting is now adjourned.